Hey, see, I be higher than most. Top of the doppler, keep your eye on the coast. I see you wave a mile away and don't alert, I just post. Running out of eagles, so the work getting slow. And they be tripping on the render, but be loving the post. Focus where you headed, how you cope on the road. I wanna fly out the city, wanna take you somewhere clean. Know you moving on to big and better things. You know I'm on the ring, you know I'm on call. You looking like you get it, you getting it, gon' fall. I'm dipping on a late night, hit you with a safe.
All right, perfect. Welcome to the Midcoast podcast, episode number 2. I think that means we're streaking, so that's a good thing. Check us out on Instagram at Midcoast Podcast, all one word. I'm Shannon.
I'm Chris.
Matthew, East Coast.
James here, Midcoast.
So Chris was talking about this, our first episode last week, and apparently some of us sound like each other. I think we're going to have to go back and listen to a couple of those because I can't figure it out.
Well, my friend was saying, because we know each other's voice really well, right? So
Yeah.
It's hard to determine who's speaking, I guess, because you don't really know other individuals' voices. Like, he knows my voice, so maybe he could pick me up, but he can't pick up the difference between you guys because he doesn't know you.
Who do you think has the sexiest voice on this podcast?
Me,
as
course.
I lower my voice.
You know, me. I don't know. That's a
If
weird
you had
question.
to, if you had to pick one of us, Chris,
Probably
I'm putting you
me.
in the hot seat.
Probably James.
Oh man.
James.
All right.
He's that strong, silent type voice, you know, talking about that meat.
I appreciate that, Chris.
All right. First, we want to get into some news here. Did you guys hear about the Bubba Wallace thing that's going on in NASCAR?
Yeah, I think that's kind of been a hot topic item of this week and a little bit of towards the tail end of last week, right? NASCAR ended up disbanding the ability to bring in Confederate flags, and that kind of snowballed this whole thing, you know. And I think it was a good call on NASCAR to get rid of that because it brings a stigma with it. I think there's a place for it in museums to show kind of our history, but I don't think it should be brought to sports events and stuff like that. So I think that was kind of the starting point. I don't know, what's your guys' take on the disbanding of it?
I agree with you. Just because, like I'm going to say the exact same thing you said. It just represents something that most people in America, I would think, don't believe in. There's a reason we fought a war over that. And that flag represents something. Well, it really represents slavery and different things like that. And that's not what we're about here in America. So
What do you say to the people that say it's just my heritage? It's part of my history. Maybe they had a great-grandfather that fought in the war. What do you say to those people?
Well, I think there's a place for history everywhere, right? Similar with these statues, and that's museums, right? You want to bring light to the past, and you want to show the history because you need to remember it because it tends to happen again if you don't bring up the history of these events and other things. So I think there's a place for it, and it's in museums. And I was talking to my buddy the other day, and I was saying I went to North Carolina, and they fought on the South, but they had a really good national museum where they depicted the Confederate flags and slavery, and they showed it, I thought, in a really good manner, in a good, appropriate way, where it kind of showed the reason why some people fought for the South that may have not been racist tendencies, but it also showed that majority of it was racist. But they kind of brought to light the whole picture. And that's how I should think it should be depicted, is in museums and with facts and history behind it, not just out there and brought it to sport events and stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing for them to get rid of it in the actual NASCAR events, because I know I would never go to a NASCAR event just because I'd fear for my own safety, or getting not feeling comfortable being around that. Even simple stuff like motocross and monster trucks and stuff like that, I would never go. As much as I'd like to go watch one of those events live, I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Yeah, because that stigma is brought, right? You see that flag and you it instantly sparks your mind going racist in that way. And I completely agree with you. That's what I see when I see it too. It has a bad notion with it, and it belongs in the history books, and that's kind of where I think it belongs personally.
Ooh, that's interesting. Me personally, I wouldn't have a problem going to a NASCAR race before this. I think my only problem would be the fact that Jeff Gordon is retired. He was definitely my favorite racer growing up, but yeah, that it's where else in America have losers been able to fly their flag as high? Like, I know this is an odd comparison, but like, you don't have the losers of the Super Bowl champion around 50 years later, like, man, we lost in the first Super Bowl. It's interesting, right? Like, it just doesn't happen. So like, I think long overdue, right? So
Yeah. And then I kind of showed you guys that image beforehand of the gentleman flying the flag over. I think it was 2 days before Bubba Watson found the noose.
Wallace.
Bubba Wallace that found the noose. It was 2 days before, where they flew the Confederate flag and it says defund NASCAR. So I kind of showed you guys that before this, and I think that brought high tensions into NASCAR. When I would see that, it would kind of make me think, are they coming after me at being maybe the only African American racer? So maybe that's what kind of sparked his interest in looking for something that clearly it was a noose, but supposedly what I read online, that the FBI showed that it was there in 2019. I don't know if you guys read that article.
Yeah, like October.
Yeah.
October, I believe, is when they first saw it. But parlaying into that is, I know he raced for Richard Petty Racing, who's obviously a legend in NASCAR, and he even uses his number. Bubba Wallace uses Richard Petty's 43. So he came out and he was up in arms. He was ticked that this was even an issue, saying there's like no place in racism in NASCAR, for racism in NASCAR, things like that. And even NASCAR was on Bubba's side. This is an act that is, we don't back at all, and we're going to find the person who did this, and even brought in the FBI, and then it continues after that.
Yeah, 19 FBI agents. I just read an article right before this, actually did the investigation. So they brought in 19 FBI agents, and what their claim was that it's been there since October, like you said, of 2019. And they said they would have never known the garage would have been before the race, because it's kind of assigned the day of the race. They're not really pre-assigned. So nobody could have gone in before the race knowing it was his garage, and it's been there. But if you look at the image, it's totally a noose. Like, I don't know if you guys saw the close-up image. They released it yesterday. So.
My question is, I've never been to a NASCAR race. I don't know really what the garages look like. Do all garages have that type of rope on them, or is it just a specific garage?
Any of those pull-down garages have a rope, right? And people sometimes keep them loose, like it's just straight down. Some people tie like a handle on it. Some type of garage door is a complete circle where you kind of pull it through. So it depends. So this individual, whoever did it in October, made it a noose, which is kind of weird, right? If anything, I would have done personally like a slip knot, or like maybe a knot on the back end, so I could grab it with 2 fingers and pull it down or something like that. So it's interesting.
Straight, and you can just grab it with 2 hands. I mean, that's a perfectly fine thing to do, is just leave it straight and pull it down.
So they showed the other one, and it was perfectly straight on one of the websites I went on. So the one to the left, and it shows the ropes like twice as long, and it was straight down. So yeah, whoever the individual was probably tied it in the noose in 2019 is what they're saying.
Yeah, thinking it was a joke. It was a sick joke because it was unnecessary.
I would have to look up how to tie a noose. Like, you know what I mean? Like clearly somebody had to go, you know what I mean? Like, it was very intentional, right? Like, that's just weird to me.
He was practicing his noose tying skills. I don't know. I don't know how to tie one either.
Yeah, like, it was just like Googling, right? You know what I mean? Like,
there was definitely some effort, and Bubba said that. He said there was some effort behind it, and that's kind of why he brought it forth to light, because he even asked his crew chief, and he was like, hey, am I wrong? And he's like, no, that takes some time, and it's a skill. It's not like somebody could pick it up and be like, hey, and here it is. So,
like, you couldn't accidentally tie it like that.
No, you couldn't. And if you physically see it, it like wraps around 4 times, right, or something like that. So like, what?
Ah, dang it, my bad. This isn't what I meant to tie.
A bow tie. It's a bow tie, guys.
Like trying to tie your shoes, and you look down and you just have noose off the side of your knife.
Crap.
Like, damn.
And your finger's stuck in there. Your finger's stuck in there, and it's like dying.
The old noose shoe tie.
Not again.
The NASCAR commissioner, or whatever they consider their commissioner, came out and said he was a little rushed to the claiming that it was wrong and stuff like that. Not so saying it was wrong, but saying that we need to go after this individual and stuff like that, and then he would have a lifetime ban, because they now know it's a year prior. So he's kind of rescinded a lot of those words. So it's interesting to see how NASCAR acts, in my point of view, from this point on, and are they going to continue trying to make it more inclusive of a sport, or are they going to go down this road and make it still exclusive. I think that's going to be interesting in that sports world.
The thing that I still have a question on is, even though it was there a year prior, how do we know it still wasn't something that was intentional? Even though it might not necessarily been for Bubba, it could have just been for anyone else, just sending a message like, "Hey, we're here. We believe in this," type of thing.
Well, I think that's the stigma of NASCAR, that there's racism there, and that's what NASCAR's trying to do by disbanding the broad of the Confederate flag and stuff like that. And they're trying to make it more inclusive. So I don't know personally on if it was meant to make a point, but going to those events, there tends to be a lot of those individuals that unfortunately believe that. You know what I mean? So it could have been intentional.
I've never been to a NASCAR event, so I really can't say like what it's like. I would feel like it would be fun. I'd be there for the crashes, even though I hope everyone's safe, but I feel like that's probably one of the most exciting parts of it.
Well,
So,
James, you kind of brought up that you wouldn't go. Have you gone? Or you would go. Have you gone before to an event?
I have not gone before, but my dad's from North Carolina, and he grew up, a racing fan and whatnot. So we kind of watched it growing up. I haven't, but I mean, I would go probably. I definitely would have gone before all this. And then now, if they make changes, I mean, why not? I mean, it seems like it would be much more safe for someone of my racial background, all things considered, what's happened with NASCAR recently. But if I had to pick, it'd probably either be Talladega, Bristol, or Watkins Glen, which is a road course, 13 turns, I believe.
Somebody's a true NASCAR fan. Jeez.
NASCAR
Go meet a
nerd.
Shane for sure. I just know they go fast and turn left.
That is a pretty good episode of South Park.
Question for you guys. How often do you guys see like Confederate flags where you guys are?
Well, I'm in Orange County, and it's not very common. Maybe once a year, if that. Like, I think I saw more in Minnesota, to be honest. And like college dorms and stuff like that. That's to be honest, that's kind of the different take, right? Because most of NASCAR there is in the South, and there's some races here in California, but in Orange County, it's not really prevalent out here seeing a Confederate flag.
That's interesting that you say that, Chris, because the only time I really see Confederate flags is when we were going to college and we had to take that drive up there. Going through some of those small towns, you just see them on the outside of some of the people's houses. So that's really the only time I've ever seen them.
James?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an outside of the metro occurrence. Definitely, you get them inside of the city, right? People commute, but once you get to those, outside that first ring of suburbs, then you start to see those flags. Coon Rapids comes to mind. Just saying.
Fitting name.
Yeah, right. They're actually thinking about renaming that.
Yes, which is the name of a city, everyone, for people who don't know that. Go ahead, James.
No, I'm good. That's the funny part behind it. It's a city in Minnesota here, guys, called Coon Rapids.
I wanna ask one more question before we kind of transition off of this topic. Is like, why do you think there is such a disconnect between the people that live in the inner cities in Minnesota and people that live on the kind of the outskirts?
I think they may believe in some of the ideals or are okay with it at least, but they just know that they're in the inner city. There's more diversity there than if they're out on their plot of land on the middle of a farm somewhere outside of Coon Rapids. So I think they're maybe a little tentative to do it because they don't want to have someone approach them of any color and say, why do you have that? So I just think if they have their own space, they may do it. They may be a little bolder, but when they're in the city close to others, I don't think they choose to.
I don't know. You guys could speak to this better than me, of course, but I remember going to college, and, Shannon, you were my first friend in college. And I remember people coming up to me and it's like, oh, Shannon's my first black friend, and maybe that's the case because a lot of these rural towns, they're not, like Matt's saying, there's not much culture there. It's white people amongst white people. Where I grew up, I had, an Asian next door neighbor, an African American next door neighbor, and then, a Hispanic, and then I'm Greek. So it's more diverse where I grew up, where there was, white.
I think my interpretation of my answer to my own question is that just the experience that people have living in the inner cities versus like out in the sticks, I'll just say, is that the perception of like reality is really different, because even on something that we can see, if you talk about racism, if you talk about this, like the system that we live in, both sides can see something truly different. And I feel like it's just like the experience that they grow up with leads them down like a different form of reality. I don't mean to get like theoretical and stuff like that, but yeah.
Podcast is for, right? You got to use your platform, bro. Speak your knowledge.
Shannon, I think you kind of hit it right on the head there. It just comes to a whole upbringing and proximity and where you get that information from. You know, like a lot of the people that we went to college with that, those that come out and say, Shannon was their first black friend, or, me and Matt, either one, their exposure to African Americans was just the TV and the internet. It's a whole different ball game when you grow up next to somebody, or you're friends with someone, even just from a different culture or background. It feels entirely different, right? And so, like, if you're just seeing, those people, they're just seeing it on TV and whatnot. A lot of the times, same thing with us, right? I'm sure there's stuff you've never seen before or met, or people, right? And then you meet somebody of that ilk and you're like, oh, well, they're just a person, So like, it's crazy, So I think that's kind of where it comes from.
Yeah, being down here and with my job, I travel all over Florida. I see Confederate flags daily. And I go to people's homes. So I had only one home so far that actually had a visible Confederate flag. I didn't feel that they treated me any differently. I didn't feel that they had any kind of hate towards me or dislike or fear of me. But that was my first and only experience actually meeting someone like that had the flag outside of their home. But I know people down here that fly the Confederate flag, but still consider themselves not racist. Like I said, it's just their heritage in quotes and things like that. And they have, they always say, oh, I have black friends, but they treat their black friends as equally as they treat any other race around them. So sometimes they do have it, but it's not necessarily directed to project their hate towards other groups. But I do see the flag every day, and it's still not the most comfortable with it, because I don't see why you need it.
This topic is really interesting, and I know I said I had the last question I asked was the last question, but this is really going to be the last question I ask on this topic for today. Do you think if someone was flying a swastika as a flag when you entered their house, Matt, you would feel comfortable, or would you just leave?
I feel like that. I think that is even more radical. Confederate, maybe not so much, but the swastika definitely has hate behind it. For sure. That's not like history. That's definite hate. I would still try to do my job, but obviously anyone I'm around, I'm very aware. I look, if they're behind me, I keep looking back. I pretend I'm like looking at, stuff for work, but I constantly look behind me. But swastika, yeah, that would definitely be fearful. I'd try to do my job, but I'd definitely try to keep my distance from them. But I would worry about them trying to be bold and attack me or do something else,
So to you, those two symbols represent something different.
Yeah.
For me, those two symbols are like very similar.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, the Confederate flag is more, they view it as Southern heritage, which I don't see why you can't get a Florida flag. Florida has its own flag. If you're from Georgia, you can put a Georgia flag, which had the Confederate flag. I don't know if they got rid of it yet, but I know they were trying to get rid of it. But like, you can fly your Florida flag. You don't have to do a Confederate flag. But a lot of them just say, oh, it's just heritage. It's just, South pride. It's not necessarily, they don't think it ties to slavery and racism, which it clearly does, but they seem to not think so.
That's like a whole circle back to like, the reality is different. We perceive things so different. Even looking at the same flag, different people can perceive it so differently, and that's what's crazy.
Here's a moment with James.
Wait, really quick. I don't want this to be a part of the podcast, but the whole thing about aliens and the pyramids, what pisses me off is like people, like I feel like people are like, no, there's no way black people could have built this. It must have been aliens.
That was a moment with James.
Moving on to something a little bit lighter. So PS5 versus the new Xbox that's coming out. Which are you guys gonna get, and are your girlfriends buying it for you?
Well, first of all, I think the PS5 is an homage to Georgia O'Keeffe or a router. Do you know who Georgia O'Keeffe is?
Nah, pull it up.
Georgia
Yes.
O'Keeffe is a painter that painted vaginas.
Oh,
That's
wow.
all she painted.
Like in flowers and stuff, right? Is
Yep,
that-
yep,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
yep.
I've
And
heard
I
that.
really think the shape of the PS5 has a very familiar shape to one of her paintings. That's just me. I don't like the aesthetic look of it, but not to say the Xbox is any better. It's just a big box, but it fits its name. It's literally a giant box. But I'm a huge Halo fan. If you can't view my background, but it's actually a Halo background, one of the Halo maps. And I bought the first Xbox. I bought the Xbox 360 and the current Xbox, and I'm gonna buy this next one because the main release for the Xbox again is gonna be Halo. So Halo 6 is gonna be the launch of it. So I'm gonna go Xbox again personally. Based off the stats of what I saw, I didn't see too much stats difference, but I have seen a big price difference between $1,000 to $400. So I don't really know where they're gonna be priced at.
I think I'm going with the PS5. I used to be an Xbox guy, and the only reason that I switched was because I had more of my friends playing PS5 than Xbox. Otherwise, I probably would still have an Xbox, and I probably would get the new Xbox that's coming out. Regarding the price, I think what I've heard for the PS5, there's like two versions. There's one with disc, and there's one without. And I believe the one without the disc is going to be around $499. The one with the disc is going to be about $599.
I'm old school. I like to have the game. I like the cover. You know, I like to buy them. I don't know. Do you guys digitally download your games, or do you still buy the hard copy?
For
Full
me,
digital.
ooh, okay.
Full digital.
I like digital because
Full digital,
you
son.
can switch. Switch between easier. You don't have to switch out a disc. You just click on the game.
My two favorite games are FIFA and Call of Duty, and I have the disc for both. And I have to switch it, and it's a pain in the butt right now. I hate doing it. So I'm going to go digital.
You're going digital. Maybe I got to make the switch then. Maybe.
Make the switch.
Yeah.
I think digital is the way to go. I do. I mean, you take you get an external hard drive if you're gonna have that many games, and get yourself a few terabytes, and you're good to go. Like how many are you going to GameStop and turning it in, or getting, GameStop like, all right, man, the best I can do is $2, and then they'll turn around and sell it to someone else for $20. So
Yeah, I don't sell my games. No, of course not. I think just for the Halo factors, like I like the game because I have all, I have Halo, I have Halo 2, 3, and so forth. And I kind of like having them all lined up. I'm kind of old school that way in the sense it's because it's my game. Like I love Halo. But PlayStation 5 is having a good launch too. Spider-Man they're going to be their big launch with theirs. So that's everyone that's played the original one said it was sick. I almost bought a PlayStation 5 just for it because I'm a huge Spider-Man nut.
Would you ever get both?
Not to start. I have had both in the past. I had, Xbox and the PlayStation, like the original Xbox. But it just, if you get one of those select releases like a Spider-Man and stuff, then it makes it worth it. But most platforms now have the same game, and now they're doing crossplay, right? Like we play COD together.
Yeah.
And you're on
Warzone.
PlayStation.
Yeah. James,
Yeah,
does your girlfriend let you play video games?
Absolutely, yes. I am allowed to get it in when I can or when time permits, right? And I'm actually I do two or both. I have the Xbox and the PS4 Pro, but the reason that I got it is kind of what Chris is saying there, is to get for the singular title games. So I got it for Spider-Man, and I'm intending to play God of War as well as The Last of Us. And there's that other, I can't think of the name of it, but it's the one where she has like a bow and arrow, and it's like machine mechs and stuff. Event Something Horizon. I don't know what it is, but yeah, that's why I would get and for the next ones, I would love to get both if I could, if I can get the money together.
Gonna drop over $1,000.
Yeah.
He's got it. He's a
I think
baller,
it's worth it,
remember?
man. No, it's a hobby, man. It's a hobby that I like, and it hasn't stopped yet.
I didn't know you had a PS4. This whole time we could have been playing Warzone together in the same party.
I have an Xbox though too.
What about you, Matt? What are you gonna buy first?
I'll probably go with the Xbox, I guess. I got Xbox when I got to college because of Halo, playing with James. So I guess I'll stick with it. I don't see any different. I don't really care about Spider-Man and things like that. It'd be cool to watch. Like if James is still my roommate, I can watch him play it. But I don't know if I'd buy it just to play Spider-Man or things like that. But I'm good with Halo, and most other games that I play, NBA, things like that, are on both systems. So I'm good with either. So.
Matt, do you have the Master Chief Collection?
No, I don't own a Halo because I had it on like the second Xbox, but I haven't bought one since then. But that was the original reason I got one, was to play Halo, but I haven't played Halo in years. So
Dude, I still remember when the first Halo commercial came out for the original Xbox, and I was like, I gotta get that game.
oh,
It's like, yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. It was sick.
I was gonna say, have you guys seen the on ESPN? They're playing esports.
Yeah, I saw the basketball for a little bit, but I don't really care to watch other people game.
I'm not gonna watch anybody play 2K. Like, no. I can
not 2K.
I can go down the road and do that. I'm good.
Not 2K.
I'd rather play 2K myself.
They also have like drone racing and stuff like that. I don't know if that's specifically ESPN, but I know there's a drone racing league and they have to do it virtually now.
Sick.
Yeah, but now they're doing it virtually, and it's basically like a game, and I can't watch that either. If I had to watch a game on TV, it would definitely be like Modern Warfare or Warzone or something like that.
I like the guy. Like, I'll watch it if somebody's doing really funny commentary. Like that's what gets me. Like if somebody's doing like snarky commentary or being silly, then I could watch somebody game. Or if I'm with a bud, like Matt was saying, if James was playing Spider-Man just to check it out, like, oh, let me watch him play a little bit. But I'd rather play.
I'd watch a celebrity play.
One of those, huh?
Mm-hmm. Celebrity lovers.
Yeah.
Like I might watch LeBron James play 2K, but that's
I don't think he was part of it though. I didn't see him part.
No, it's a league of gamers. So like they're pro gamers.
I know they draft too. Like the NBA 2K, they do a draft for the gamers.
That's wild.
Yeah,
I've seen that. Yeah, they showed the guy, the first legend or whatever for the year got drafted and everything. They showed him walking across the stage in his suit and everything. I was like, oh, good for him. That's cool.
and they're giving scholarships to colleges for e-gaming now too.
E-game, yeah, I've seen that.
That's crazy.
I really missed the boat, man.
Our parents told us gaming's gonna rot your brain and don't play video games. That's what I remember my mom saying.
My favorite part about competitive video games is just like, yeah, he's really, really looking long in the tooth, getting old now, 25, 22 years old. He's a little bit too old for gaming now. Just that's
exactly what they say. Yeah, people's reaction time just go down. It's crazy that
it's so old.
I think there's actually like the science behind that is just like your reflexes and your reaction time actually decrease as you get old, so it's actually harder for you.
I don't know. I'm beating these little kids on Warzone, so that's the only kills I get are these little kids.
those guys are 8.
They haven't got their reaction time up yet.
A kid will come through and put you up right now.
Oh man, Shannon could speak to that for sure.
Oh, get a job.
So funny story. Chris and I played Warzone. Was it last week? I believe. Yeah, we were talking about the podcast as well. I got out. I think I got sniped in the back, which wasn't good. I wasn't good at the time at all. But Chris, someone came up the stairs. Chris literally shot and drew like a perfect cutout around the person. Didn't hit them at all. And then just got killed, and I laughed for about 5 minutes.
I never said I was the best.
I am dying right now because when Matt and I used to play Halo back in the day, I would be Chris in this scenario in some situations, and Matt would be like, "Oh, great! Look at those warning shots you're giving them, letting them know you're there.
I remember saying that, but I don't remember you being bad. You're always good. You always underplay like your game, even in Madden. You're like, oh, I'm not very good, but then you just stomp us, but then you feel bad for stomping us.
He doesn't feel bad. Don't give him that credit, Matt.
The warning shots that stuck with me, man. Like, yeah, I missed.
Because you'd panic. You got it in you. You got it in you, kid. But you'd
That
panic.
was
You
me.
just go, ah!
He got so nervous when he was coming up the stairs. Sorry.
It's okay,
too
Chris. You got it in you.
Premature shooting, guys. Premature shooting.
All right, I think it's time. We got to transition, right? Chris, I want you to drop a nice transition bomb right here.
Hey, come on down to Jerry's tampon cleaning business. You can come on down. It's 99 cents. Just come on down, right? Just come on. Just come down, all right?
I want to clean the tampons. Let's go.
That's going in. It's going in. That's our transition. I got it. That's our transition.
No.
These are commercials that would never make it on TV.
Dude, I saw one the other day. It was on Reddit, I think, and the whole slogan is like, "We don't care," and I'm pretty sure they were selling like trailer homes, you know. And the dude's like, "Yeah, you know, we'll bring them down the road, cut them right in half, and if you don't like it, we don't care. We don't need you, and we don't care about your business." And that was literally their commercial. like just a bunch of cuts of this guy telling you that he doesn't care while standing with the house behind him, and then like the whole family was together, and they're like, yeah, basically you should either get one of our houses or we don't need to hear from you.
Oh man.
It's time for Learn Patois with Matthew.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to class. Today's lesson would be the Jamaican word is picnic or picnic. You guys
wait, Matt, hold on. Before we get into this, can you explain what patois is? I know some people might not know about this.
All right. Patois is the native tongue of Jamaica. In school, in life, you learn patois, but in school, you learn English. So it's kind of a broken down English. It's kind of like a twist to the English language with a few foreign words sprinkled in there. So today's lesson what's up?
Sorry. I just had a quick question about it. Would you compare it to like Ebonics in America?
I guess so. I guess it's kind of like a dialect that you could interchange. And I think of it, I don't know Creole, but I think it's kind of like Creole and French, to where you might be able to understand each other if you spoke like really harsh patois, but you can still get along. Because Creole, I think, has like some African type dialect, but it also obviously has some French in there.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the word again?
Picnic or picnic. Depends who you talk to. They'll pronounce it a little different.
So are we supposed to guess what it is?
Yeah. You want me using it in a sentence?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please do.
We wanted to pick them sit on. Doesn't help, right?
Shannon, you're leading this.
One more
do you
time?
guess?
One more time?
We wanted to pick them sit on.
Can you use it in another sentence?
All right. The picnic them so loud, me can't hear myself think.
Noise? Is it noise?
No, that's your guess. What do you guys think? The picnic them so loud, me can't hear myself think.
Is it singing or yelling?
It's a noun. I'll give you that hint. James, you have a guess?
No, I don't. Now when you said it was a noun, that made mine wrong.
Give it to us, man.
All right. Picnic is children. They're children. So you can use it as one child or multiple children. So you can say, me picnic can't see, or whatever, however, or me picnic them can't see. So my children can't see, or it's children.
Got it.
That was way off.
All right.
Yeah, and I think that comes from some kind of African type breakdown, because I think there's plenty of words in patois that comes from different roots. Some Spanish words, some of the Western Africa dialect and things like that, because it is kind of built, because obviously Jamaica was a port for slavery. Kingston definitely was. And so there's a lot of languages that kind of collaborated to kind of make patois.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's very cool. How much do you understand like all of patois?
Yeah. And there's different types of layers to it. Like if you're speaking in a court of law and you have you speak patois, you have a Jamaican accent, you won't say you won't go too hard on it. You'd kind of break it and kind of wash it with some English, so it'll be a little bit more proper and a little bit easier to understand, you know?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You switched up on us really quick. I was like, man, he's gone. Like, this man is gone. He's patois. That's crazy, man. That's so cool.
I think that's a great introduction. So when we bring it into our daily show or weekly show, everyone will kind of can backtrack to this episode and understand where it's coming from. Thanks for that knowledge, Matt.
Swag.
Dude, I just Googled it. It's a crazy word. there's quite the Pickaninny.
Yeah. I'm trying to, like, if I was younger and I just was out dating and I was like, yeah, girl, I speak patois, you know, I feel like that would have worked for me. All right, we're transitioning into bad advice of the week, guys. The bad advice of this week is texting your ex-girlfriend and asking her how she's doing, or he, whatever. I don't know what you're into, or they. I guess this is getting long, but text them, ask them how they're doing, and tell them you miss them. That's it.
Are you going to do that after this?
Absolutely not.
Which ex would you choose? Okay, if you would have to choose one to text, who would it be?
It would be the one that wouldn't text me back, because I know she wouldn't text me back.
The least likely to text you back would be the one who texts.
Yeah.
Is she married?
I don't know if any of my exes are married. I don't keep tabs.
Anna.
Oh.
Oh, no. Oh, damn.
So Shannon just lied, or well, he doesn't know. So I don't know.
Well, I didn't know I lied.
Yeah.
Actually, I do know, because her husband is one of my very good friends, and we went to high school together. So I know. I just kind of forgot, I guess.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. We're dropping truth bombs here.
Yeah, I think this is all gonna get cut, isn't it?
I have no clue anymore.
I hope so.
Get rid of the whole
I hope
segment.
so.
That was really bad advice.
Yeah, that was so bad
Dude,
advice.
that was
Exactly.
That was
bad
Isn't that what
advice.
it's supposed to be though? Bad advice, because that was
It's bad
hilarious. I like
advice.
that, Shannon.
It's terrible.
Tell me you love them.
It's awful advice. All right, and that concludes episode 2 of the Midcoast podcast. Remember, you can find us on Instagram at Midcoast Podcast, all one word. Drop the truth bomb. Chris, that's where you're supposed to add something right here.
Does that make y'all wiener cousins?
Hey, see, I be higher than most. Top of the doppler, keep your eye on the coast. I see you wave a mile away and don't alert, I just post. Running out of Eagles, so the work getting slow. And they be tripping on the render, but be loving the post. But